And let's get the camera on. Hello, welcome. We normally start pretty slow with these live streams because it might take people a little bit of time to rock up. So I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping. We'll go through all of the sort of intro bits and pieces and then see if anyone's sort of kicking around. Also, what's useful, we're dealing with technology, so everything can be a little bit sort of unreliable or a little bit unknown at times. So if there's ever a point in the live stream where the sound is doing something weird or the video is doing something weird and it doesn't look like it's supposed to be doing that, just let us know in the comments. We have the comments right here. We can read through them as they're going and we can respond to what's going on. So that would be helpful. As well, a few of the live streams that we've been doing, because we're using sound from some of the programs that we're using. The last one that we did, there was a bit of a crosstalk between the sound from the experience and the sound from the microphone, so it was a little bit hard to hear. So just if there's any difficulty hearing, let us know. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is maybe I'm just going to check and see if I can get an idea of how many people are kicking around.
Yeah, can we see how many people?
I don't know where it normally pops up.
Can people comment? Maybe they can comment one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what we'd normally do is just at this point say, okay, we're getting started, waiting for people to rock up. But if the sound is good, if the picture is good and everything's going, just give us a ping in the comments and let us know that everything's all looking good. If people are still spending time rocking up, then I'll just go through my my housekeeping bits and pieces. So for this live stream, Jason and I will be talking about the collaborative project that we've been working on. So that'll be coming. Just to start off with, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. And also to say that point out that we're on unceded land. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank everyone for tuning in. As with all of these other live streams, so this is still experimental regardless of the fact that this is like the 7th or 8th one that I've done. You know, who knows what's going to happen? Things are changing all the time. There's a very loud plane flying overhead, which is kind of a sign that things are returning to normal, I suppose, that planes are flying. We're on the flight path here in the inner west, so we might hear that fairly often. If all the volume's okay and everything, then that's great. We take all of these live streams and archive them either on the Tactical Space Lab website and also on the Facebook group. So if you like this and are interested, you can see all the stuff that we've already done. And there'll be one more. Chidam Ayodamir is the next artist that we'll be doing probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, but keep your ear out for when we're scheduling that. It's an informal structure. It's a chat really. And if anyone asks any questions in the comments, then that will be a good way to sort of have some feedback and back and forth. Mainly what we'll be doing is just going through and showing, sort of demonstrating what we've done, talking about the ideas behind it, maybe showing some of the back end sort of stuff, some of the sort of technical bits and pieces if people are interested. There we go. I'd like to thank our support from Australia Council for the Arts, City of Sydney and Create New South Wales. So this project, different from the normal ones, we also have a City of Sydney fellowship that this project is part of. So it's a little bit of a bigger project. And what we're presenting today is sort of the initial sort of start of the project, I suppose, just to show off the
beta
ideas.
version.
Yeah, that's good. Not
yeah.
Zeta?
I don't know what
beta works. Yeah. So just to give an idea and get everyone wet everyone's whistle, I suppose, get everyone excited. Should I show off your website as well? You interested in people seeing your website?
I guess so. I don't know. It's not very organized, so.
Okay. Well, I might as well do it for the sake of Which, there we go.
There we go.
All right. I'll do the bits and pieces necessary to get the thing going with the whatsy, that bit there, and we will turn off that bit, and we'll turn off that bit.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
Yeah.
On the large screen, this is Jason's website, jasonphu.com, if you're interested in the work that he does. We'll also be talking a little bit probably later on.
All of these are pictures, so...
Yeah, show what you need to. We'll be talking about some of the workshops and stuff that Jason does, but his practice is, what would you say, installation and painting?
Yeah, I had a printmaking background and then went into painting and drawing, and now installation, performance, video, so yeah, just a bit of everything. So these are some Chinese paintings that I made. Let's see, some installation, maybe hopefully there's a picture there, that's from the MCA, Primavera. Yeah.
Cool beans.
Some cool artwork that I've made about cool things. But yeah, a lot of my artwork's to do with my identity as Chinese, Vietnamese, and that goes into a lot of folklore, but also I do projects like this, which is, I don't know, I'm pointing over there, but that's actually in the right direction. I do quite a lot of historical projects as well, where this one's about Jason Phu, who was a bushranger that existed in Australia, he killed a constable and was hung, but this is a romanticization about him and his gang. Yeah, so
cool. That was for a residency, or you were invited to? It was a commission.
No, it was a Primavera. So
cool.
Yeah.
And then right. I'm thinking of, you did when you invited to
4A.
Yeah, right.
So I did one about the Lambing Flat riots in 1860, 1861. The Lambing Flat, the birthplace of White Australia policies, as it's sometimes known. But now it's called Young. It changed quite early on, and it's the cherry capital of Australia.
There's something mildly distracting.
Yeah.
Different history. I'm going to put this back on. Slightly, I'm wondering, do you want to get on your phone and see if there's if everything's appearing to be normal on the
I don't know how to do that.
I just go via Facebook. Just going to spend one moment just making sure that everything is live the way that it should, just because otherwise we're going to spend 55 minutes talking to ourselves. So
I feel like we're like two people that just started a really shit podcast
with no one watching it. They'll be, something just popped up just there. I'm live now. Words. Yeah. Oh, okay. So people are commenting, and for whatever reason, it's doing live closed caption as well. That's kind of cool. It's wildly creepy, and also, no, it's right.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah, that is cool.
Maybe we should play a bit of the stream.
What? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got confirmation through this that people are connected. For whatever reason, I might just set this page and just see if the comments are showing up, because it is necessary for us to see the comments. There we go. Okay. For whatever reason, it wasn't working. Now we can see that there are a bunch of people watching.
Oh, correct.
All good.
How many people? Like 3?
8 people.
8. That's heaps.
And then if you take your top off, it'll go up. We have to keep them interested.
I think I'll keep my top on.
Okay, cool. All right, so I think we've done the bits and pieces, the housekeeping bits and pieces. Yeah, let's show what we've done. How do you want to introduce it?
I think it'd be maybe a brief description. It's the Eternal Parade.
Go on.
So it's a eternal parade of ghosts, spirits, and monsters who are occupying a space that's been abandoned by humans because of COVID. But it does play into, I mean, it does sound very contemporary, but it does play into a lot of Chinese and Asian mythologies about, you know, abandoned spaces and how spirits occupy spaces and places. So and part of the inspiration is the Hungry Ghost Festival. So I think it's like a week of festivals around September. We just had it, where the gates of hell are opened by King Yama, the god of the underworld, and all our ancestors come through, and we've got to feed them and entertain them. So often they'll have like theater shows where the first row of seats are empty for the spirits to sit in, and things like that. So it's got a bit of that, but also a bit of the idea of I guess I'm quite interested in the intersection of like parades and protests. So this isn't a protest yet, but we do have the structure to, you know, we've got banners and flags with text and loud music and yeah, big crowd of people walking through.
So what we could say, I mean, this was sort of coming out of a bunch of things. One of them was, as we've been progressing through the VR studios, I've been thinking more about how you can make things in the language, in the sort of visual language of VR, but that don't need necessarily the headset. So you know, it's a combination of a few different things, thinking about how you can engage people, you know, how you can respond to lockdown, for example, how you can engage people with artworks, how we could do something that worked off of Jason's practice, and also like some of that idea of like just making a VR thing similar to Louise Zhang's, where it's like running on VR on YouTube. But the difference is, like for Louise's, it was all like pre-rendered. So we made the models and we built, you know, took a few days to render the video, and then that's the final thing. For this thing, it's kind of trying to give a sense of, you know, inhabited space, I suppose. We're not really in that space at the moment as we were before, when the city was totally empty and people were talking about dolphins returning to Venice and whatever animals returning to wherever.
Most of them weren't that true, but they were the starting point of a thought process, I guess, about things returning, nature healing, like the meme, you know. So filling back in the space where the. But also, I think there's another, and this isn't a new science fiction trope, I guess, of like that a VR lens, that a camera lens can often capture, and actually it is quite old, capture something unseen. So
I really like that.
That maybe these things do exist alongside of us, but we can't see them except through these headsets and through YouTube, and yeah.
So the kind of interesting thing about this, I suppose, as a VR work that's designed to be accessible. So if you have a headset, what we can do is we can sort of plug it into the headset. It's I'm not sure how much of an impression it will give. It's actually a stereo video as well. So I've stuck up a link on the event page for this, and for when I archive this, I'll put a link in the comments. But this is on YouTube as a stereo 360 video. So it's just a little snippet of the actual parade. And if you've got a headset, you can look at it in stereo, so it's all full 3D. If you've got a desktop, then you can look at it in like high detail and look around with this. If you do it on your phone, you can look around all sorts. If you've got a Google Cardboard, the little piece of cardboard, you can stick your phone in it and look around. This is not quite the current version of it. This was something that I did last night just to give an impression. You know, not quite. We've added a few extra bits and pieces to it now. Yeah,
and I think the actual location and the setting is quite important. But this is a mock-up, I think he just found online.
Yeah, so I mean, like we can put it in a more. It gives the idea of it being in a street, but we probably want to stick it actually into the Haymarket, for example, or some Sydney street. Cool. So I think I've totally missed the main bit of this, is that the idea is that it's real time. So it just runs all the time. And all of the bits and pieces that are going on in it are generated, like, so it's just throwing dice basically the whole time and rearranging the different component bits and pieces to create new types of monsters from combinations of all of the different bits and pieces.
Eyes, noses, ears,
the skin,
tails,
all
yeah.
the sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the idea is, like, both Jason and I have done workshops with kids in the past. So it's sort of combining. Jason, do you want to talk? I'm not going to.
Yeah, so I think I do have I've got many different branches of my practice. I do have a very commercial branch and very research heavy branch, but also another branch for me that's very important is this sort of accessibility of an artwork through participation, especially through workshops, especially for kids. I think it's really important that people engage with contemporary art as an everyday practice. And there's nothing easier than that than a workshop. It's run by the artists often. It provides accessibility, but also making and participation. So in the past, I have done these sort of parades where I've worked with kids to make costumes and.
Should I pull up the picture?
Oh yeah, you can pull up the picture.
See if we can make it a bit bigger.
So this was for Art Assembly Commission at the Sydney Opera House.
Oh, good lord. Oops. I made it a little bit too.
It's okay.
Maybe I'll just
our viewers are expecting some technical difficulties. So it was 6 weeks of workshops with like 200 kids to make costumes that represented their idea of what the spirits look like that have come out to protest against climate inaction. So we did a range of workshops, climate change workshops. We also did a native and indigenous plant workshop, which was run by the Botanic Gardens, which was really great. We talked about climate change and the nature of protest, but also did very hands-on craft activities to make these workshops, and their capes all had messages on them. And then I worked with Erskineville Public School, but also Newington College. So there was a big range of workshops. So I really wanted to bring that into this VR project that we're doing. So the idea is to work, and the idea did come out of
the dragon head has got the same
teeth. Yeah. The initial idea for online workshops was a very COVID lockdown world, but also it doesn't have to end with COVID, because I guess doing things online provides a greater degree of accessibility. Some would argue sometimes less, depends on the situation, but a greater degree of accessibility to, for instance, places I can't get to, especially at the moment. For instance, we could run workshops with students in Melbourne or somewhere overseas. So the workshops would be to create the skins of these that on the VR.
Yeah, we can go back to it, I suppose. So
and you might have noticed, if you guys are watching, there's some cylindrical monsters with just legs. And I purposely thought that'd be a good idea because it offered a bigger template to do whatever you wanted. But you might notice we've done some variations of skins on the creatures, which is also really fun. And it's something that Josh has done many times in the past with students.
Oh yeah, some of the ones that I...
Yeah, so you can go back to your scene.
It? Let me find it.
Nope. Oh no, it's the next one over.
Yeah. Can't see it. Some of the workshops that I've been doing, pretty much using the same characters as well. And part of the practice of introducing the kids to VR is doing sort of collage stuff based on Jones. I introduced Joan Ross's artistic practice, talk about the VR projects that we worked together on, and then sort of talk through with the kids. They draw things and we cut them out and stick them in VR. It's a nice way of sort of demythologizing VR to show them the process. And part of that, basically what I do all the time for these is get the kids to do little templates of the skins for these characters that they color it in. They give an idea of where the head is, the legs, and everything, and then we can sort of wrap it across. It's a nice, quick, and easy way of generating some personalized characters that have got, it feels nice to be able to create something in VR very quickly and immediately. So we're using that same sort of idea for this. And you can, I'll go back to the video. I will go back to the video. I'll do it. I'll make it large here. Just for anyone joining. Oops. What am I doing? Across there.
It's okay. Our viewers are eternally patient.
Yeah. You say as we can see the number dropping as we get and raising as we get more or less interesting. So we're trying to deal with this sort of space between making characters very, very, very easy to put different bits and pieces on, different skins, and also have elements of interestingness. So there's a sort of fine negotiation between wild characters that are put into the space and things that the kids can just sort of draw and add elements to. I might actually show, so this is the video that you can go to and see in stereoscopic 360 if you want to have a look at what it looks like. I can also go into the experience itself. So this is it in Unity as we've got it built. I'm slightly worried that when I run it, because it's quite heavy on processing, everything might slow down a little bit. But I'll run it just for a moment to show how everything works. So there's a bunch of things going on to allow it to be real-time and generative and respond and blah, blah, blah. So it knows what time of day it is. If we turn on a button, then it will run locked into the time of day. Every 5 minutes, it gets an update of what the Sydney weather is like, and it will adjust the weather. So I can do a test of that, I suppose, to show with the rain and blah, blah, blah. If it's sunny in this, all that sort of stuff. What do we want? Thunder and lightning.
Yeah,
that's good.
Thunder and lightning.
And I'll set it to...
Maybe we can do a nighttime one with the lanterns on as well. It's
okay.
Quite nice.
Yeah. I'll just go through and find the weather component and just tell it that we're using real time. Okay. So this might be a moment where everything slows down and the stream goes a little bit funny just because it's putting a fair bit of thought into running the actual experience. If that happens, just do a comment and we'll turn it off.
Is the music on for everyone as well?
Yeah, that's a good point to check. Let's just see. Yeah. Okay. So this music, we've got stuff which is kind of trying to generate.
I can hear it. Yeah.
Oh, it's going real slow. It's really struggling. It's really, really struggling.
I think it's still good. You can get an idea. You can hear the thunder and lightning and the rain and stuff. So.
Well, the problem is it's struggling here, but it will also be jerked like a little bit choppy in the live stream as well. So we've got all the sound, we've got the rain and everything. As the weather changes, I'm going to pause it just so it's not using up so much. So in this situation, we just have it running like 24/7, and it would adjust to accommodate the weather. The day cycle would happen as the day cycle is happening in the city, and it would just constantly sort of generate new bits and pieces. It also connects to a database where we can throw like new banner text and things like that, and it will sort of generate new weird... I wonder, does that say something terrible? I just need to check before we sort of put it. The outrageous difficulty is never wrong. So we've got these like little phrases where we're taking like, can do a verb to a whatever. I think Andrew Burrell was watching, and he does amazing Twitter bot generative text. This is super basic, but that's kind of, we're just trying to make interesting banners that actually sound a little bit weird as well. They're not supposed to sound like supernatural.
But I think a reason I've sort of wanted these banners with text as well is to have these little weird little phrases, or maybe making them sound like what, you know, I would have learned as a kid about like Confucian principles and stuff. Everyone understands the cliche of, oh, Confucius says, you know, actually slightly racist cliche often it's said in tone, but also I wanted something that could be blank for someone else to take over. So in all facets of this, yeah, there is the underpinning framework of you know, a Chinese religious cultural parade, but I wanted that framework to also have layers that could be taken out and put in terms of the words. So some school kids had some messages they wanted to write. You know, I'd be more than happy after discussion. Do you know, maybe they want to write some political messages or some protest messages. I think that would be amazing. Or maybe they just want to write something nonsensical or funny. That's, you know, just as good. And that falls into the other aspects that we've already talked about in terms of like costuming. And, you know, I didn't want this to be just a Chinese parade or a Vietnamese parade sort of thing, but to have that framework, but to also for people to be able to jump in and work their own personal cultural, religious, political beliefs into it, you know. Although that can get into quite a dangerous territory, but I think we'll cross that bridge when we do. Yeah,
that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, that's cool.
Right. Sarah. Sarah says, where one sees chaos, others see opportunity. Oh,
we can add that one in.
I'm going to add that one in.
So this is like overly technical, but I'll just for the sake of showing what we're doing, if it's going to load. We've got this database that it's a Google spreadsheet that it checks every something like 4 minutes, and we can do things like just trying to build it so that we can have it running the whole time somewhere off in the cloud somewhere, and we do workshops and we upload the images that the kids have done, and we can change the text. So all of these are lists of nouns and verbs and things like that. We've got colors of everything, so we can change the colors. And where's our list of patterns? So what it's doing for many of them is just going like, all right, the adjective, noun, the blah blah blah. So it just grabs different bits and pieces and recombines them. And then we've got a bunch of phrases as well. I won't go to the phrases because it's sort of giveaway. We'll let people discover them.
Yeah.
Cool beans. So yeah, we're getting there. I think it's interesting to do. I'm really fascinated with the idea of VR, like something that's ephemeral that has real-time quality to it. You know, something which is virtual, which like is locked one-to-one to the passage of time in real space is interesting. I kind of like that. The general thing that I like as a concept is taking we talked about this in a recent chat that I had with Andrew Newman for Ars Electronica, where he was like, we were trying to come up with this idea of thinking about VR and the critical way of thinking about VR. And I think it was something like taking seriously the magic realism of VR. So basically you can't say like, oh, it's virtual, so we're just going to imagine that it's totally meaningless and there's no significance to anything or importance or whatever. Because what people will do is say, oh, here's a VR thing. This bit we think is really important, we're going to talk about, but we're going to ignore, for example, augmented reality projects. People want to say it's important and it's powerful when you can put a bit of protest artwork in space, or you can insert something into public space using augmented reality. But people don't really like to say, okay, well, are you practicing an ethical intervention in that space? Like, would you go to your Indigenous Land Council and ask permission? Like, would you do the things that you would feel obliged to do in a physical space in VR? Because like, you should be going towards approaching it as even though it's virtual, it's sort of doing something within the space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that was part of the draw of VR for me, was that this is an actual representation of the spiritual world for me, in a very magic realism sense that, that you just mentioned, that it does exist. It doesn't really have any bearing on our lives to some extent, but it is there and it exists alongside of us, and that's what this parade is. It's going to be, these spirits are going to be existing in real time alongside of us and in this other weird dimension. But for me also, the spiritual world, especially in Chinese culture, in the, I guess, the Taoist sensibility of it, is that the spirit world is the environment, is nature, in a very literal sense, and we are facing a huge climate crisis at the moment, and so the representation of this nature is that it exists next to us, with us, whether we like it or not, and we need to acknowledge that it is there. So that was what a big draw of the VR aspect is. We can turn off the headset, but it's still going to be there whether we like it or not. So,
yeah. What it means to have this thing running and existing, there being a persistent existence to it running the whole time, is kind of nice as a concept, of a way of sort of twisting what is normally just an atemporality to and a playback. You play a computer game, the same things happen over and over again. This thing has a sort of timeliness and presence that's different. That's a little bit different. We're like midway through the hour. I don't really know what to talk about now.
Oh, we should play a bit more of the, I feel like.
Okay, we can talk about individual monsters and bits and pieces if you want. Again, like if it seems to be slowing down when I'm running it, then what I can do is just sort of unpause it for a little bit and play it. I can see on the screen that it's a little bit choppy, which probably means that the live stream is going to be a little bit choppy. What tends to happen is the sound is fine, so you can probably still hear everything okay, but you might notice that it's all a little bit. And just purely in terms of the technical side of things, there's a dragon. I can make it daytime as well, and then we can see things a little bit better, but one of the bits that I like is the lanterns are casting like shadows and bits and pieces over everything. Do you want to look at anything in particular?
No, I think it's just nice to have it rolling. I think there's another aspect of, a lot of, it's unclear in a lot of folklore whether certain, I think this is not uncommon, whether it's in a not Judeo-Christian sort of religions, that whether demons and spirits and ghosts are evil or not, or good, they often, it's often quite ambiguous. They're almost, I guess, human, and that was actually quite a large push. I think during like the 12th or 14th century, they reformed quite a few gods in Chinese culture to become more people-like, more human, so that people could be able to sort of see themselves in the spirits and gods and stuff. So so they're not often, they're coming from, especially the idea of the underworld in Chinese cultures. It's like this hell, but everyone sort of goes there, unless you achieve like Buddhahood or something and go up to heaven. But the underworld is also just this place everyone goes, and there's a bureaucracy of level steps of how you get through to different places. I think Louise Zhang's project touched on some of these aspects as well.
I don't think it was directly talking about sort of levels of hell, but I know she's talked a lot about
parts of
some of that stuff, which is great. The different kings. Cool. Well, I think we're ready to respond to any questions and comments that people
because I don't
got.
have any questions. Otherwise, we've got nothing to talk about.
Yeah. What else? What would we normally say? So what? We've done the what? Why? We kind of talked about why. We talked about the concepts, the process. Where we go from here. I mean, it's going to be fun to. It still needs a fair bit of work sort of to finesse it, I'm looking forward to getting it to the point where it can run smoothly and just like live stream the whole time. We might do something a little bit where it's like live streaming not in stereo, so not in at least this version of it. Just you can go onto YouTube and you can see it and it's real time, but not just you need to throw so much. The computer needs to do so much work to render the stereo view, the VR view, because it's this huge big image and then it's got one for each eye, which slows it down a little bit.
I think another interesting thing is that, I think the viewpoint of, the internet and VR technology as like a thing, like we were just talking about before, that exists in this non-place, whereas even the struggle, I guess, we're gonna have of where we're gonna host this physically, how long's our hardware gonna last? Even thinking about that, we're gonna need a carbon offset this because that's such the energy that it's gonna take to keep this streaming for 24/7, and then ethically should we be streaming this 24/7?
Or you could double carbon offset it.
That it really will exist physically, which is like this extra layer of it's real, and it's gonna need taken care of in a way that take care of nature. You're gonna have to tuck in the hard drive to sleep every night.
Just thinking about the amount of heat that it will generate. How do you see it on YouTube with VR? So at the moment, yes, you can use the headset because it runs on YouTube, and YouTube makes like native apps for everything through your mobile phone for Google Cardboard, so you can slot your mobile phone into it. If you've got a Vive or a Rift or whatever, almost certainly it's got a YouTube app for it. So if you have the YouTube app, you can go and find it. I'll pause this again and we'll see what it's called. I think it's just called Fuse. It's a bit of a... The link is I'll post the link in the comments. That will make life easier. If you just want to go to it on your phone, or... Oops, I just paused it and unpaused it, I think, twice.
I love the subtitles. They get
right?
every one of our ums and hms. We just look so
it's creepy,
unprepared. It's just like
we can delete it.
Yeah. Oh, it's way behind, so we'll see it in a second.
Okay. Shit. All right. What I'll do is copy and paste the link to this one into the comments without any of that stuff.
So I still don't understand, how does that the cardboard thing work? Where do you get a cardboard thing?
You can, if you have enough time, you can get them for $1. You can get them for less than $1.
Yeah.
And it's just a cardboard box basically with two specially designed lenses.
Yeah. Plastic
lenses. It's the most involved part of the whole thing. And you slot your phone into it, and then the two halves of your screen are showing the left eye and the right eye view. Yeah. And depending, like, you can get plastic ones and all different ones, more expensive ones, and the software on your phone will know the configuration of the lenses, and it will slightly adjust the position of everything. But it's super, super basic. It basically takes whatever screen you've got on your phone, splits it in half.
Yeah. And
shows one thing to the left eye and one thing to the right eye. And so cheap, super, super cheap. And it works, does a good job.
Yeah.
But if you've got, a Quest or a Vive or a whatever, just go to YouTube and look up the title of this. And then you can see it in stereo 360, which means that you can look all around you, and also you're seeing depth because it's got two images, one for the left eye and one for the right eye. Cool. If you're just on a desktop computer or on your phone, then you can sort of look around, and you can move on a desktop. You can sort of use your mouse or whatever to look around. It still works. That's kind of what we're going for, an experience which is not locking people out of it if you don't have a VR headset. So that's fun.
Maybe you could talk about. Maybe we could acknowledge the influence Spore has on this.
Yes, our research. So we were trying to figure out like how to make generative monsters.
Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango is. I mean, Grim Fandango is just one of a bunch. Where's our? Let's look at our
Yeah.
development sheet. Are you happy to show that?
Yeah.
There's, I think you're bodacious. I think your project is bodacious.
Oh, why is that?
Just because I come up with a positive adjective for all of them.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what bodacious means.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I think, should we find out?
No,
I mean, I know what it means now.
Yeah.
Alright, well, here we go. Bump. So when we were starting, we had a fairly different idea of what we were going to do. And we were looking at sort of doing a cute little story with a cutout sort of aesthetic. There's a few different VR experiences. I suppose this is a good time to do a shout out to all of these. Alumet is really nice. Probably it's almost, I wouldn't say it's twee, but the way that the story is told is maybe as these VR experiences are we're getting more and more sort of sophisticated as an audience for VR. And they can be a little bit dated in what they draw attention to and how much they sort of ease the viewer into certain things.
But I think in that way they're amazing because they the reason you showed me all these different VR experiences was so that I could develop a language to be able to work in this. So yeah, they had different aspects they highlighted because they would have been the most exciting things at the time, but still relevant techniques. And yeah,
in general, I don't think Alumet is terrible. I suppose what you could, some of them, one thing that you notice with the early VRs is that the intro screen lasts for about like a minute because everyone was just purely in awe of the experience, so they didn't have to do anything to get people excited. It's just like, wow, we're actually in VR.
Yeah.
But Alumet is really nice. It's to scale, so when you're watching it, the characters appear about this big, and that relationship of the viewer to the character and the materiality of the character, it makes it kind of feel like it's puppetry, kind of like a particular. It's like watching puppetry, basically. It's a really nice relationship to the story in that way. It does something really particular. And we're looking at sort of just making something. This is like early days of COVID lockdown, just thinking about making something that was sort of a positive, nice story.
Yeah.
So things like, the cutout, telling a story, reference to Life Aquatic, a bunch of different things that use that sort of cutout style. A game, a few kids' storybook cutouts that have that same sort of thing. Highlighting bits that might be interesting. And yeah, different aesthetics, different ways of doing things. Do you want to talk in particular? These ones are kind of nice. Staying positive in the apocalypse is like a kind of jankily animated, like it's not amazing. It's like 3 frames of animation per scene that just sort of go back and forward, but the tone of it is really understated.
It's dark. It's pretty dark. It's dark comedy though.
It's dark, yeah. But I mean, the main character is just like totally deadpan chill the whole time, and it's quite nice. And then some other things that have got that sort of tone to them. And then this is where we did the transition to. So that was your proposal for?
Yeah, so I was actually supposed to do a physical Hungry Ghost parade, but for a festival, but we couldn't do it because of COVID, obviously. So that's where the inspiration for this project came about, I guess. Is that if we can't do it in person, then we should do it online, and people should still be able to celebrate this festival, so yeah.
And taking some references from other sort of parades, there's a VR music video called Old Friend, which has got a whole bunch of dancing sort of characters in it that was kind of interesting. Okay, and getting to Spore, trying to think about a parade that would come up with new monsters all the time. And Spore is a game that was came out in mid-90s.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Not mid-90s, like mid-2000s, I suppose.
Yeah.
Where you can generate your own monsters, and it's all sort of, or your own creatures, and everything's sort of rearranging where the arms and the legs and the face and the eyes, and you can just sort of remove things and put things on. And it was sort of an interesting model for trying to figure out how to come up with different monsters.
Well, creating a limited amount of changes, randomized in a thing, but that is also that we can run, but then we'll also give the idea that it is unlimited.
Yeah. I mean, like, to what we kind of, there's a little tiny bit of that we do where we, for all of the characters, we sort of randomize the size of different parts of their bodies. So they might have very broad shoulders and a tiny head or whatever. We've got some ability to do that. We haven't gone fully into it because it's fairly involved system.
I wouldn't want to meet these people in the street, man. They're scary.
What else did we look at? Is that it? Oh yeah, there's a few experiments with sculpting monsters to get them in a little bit more from Spore. This is how the template sort of system works, where you draw basically on a flat piece of paper within the outlines of these different parts, and it will take, for example, that part of the face gets sort of wrapped into this part of the model. That's a good way of very quickly working with kids to generate characters. And then we've got a whole bunch of sort of general little bits and pieces that get thrown around the characters. So you'll see with some of the characters, they've got different arms and legs, different like horns and eyes and mouths and things like that. And then, was that yours? That not?
No, that's not. It looks like one of my works.
Yeah. No. And then thinking about, like, because we're trying to make monsters that are not too detailed in terms of the shape, but have a lot of information in terms of what's sort of painted onto the surface. All of this cardboard sort of style is really good because it's like very simple. But then, if you paint over the top of it, which is effectively what you do when you're drawing these out, they can be totally different. They can look very different, but just with the same set of basic shapes. What else have we got? Some early sketches of some of the monsters. Do you want to talk about these?
Oh, Gantz. Yeah, this is a really great show. Got a lot of really interesting character design, but again, that's often directly drawn from Japanese like folklore. But I got introduced to it. There's a Netflix Gantz movie, so it comes in a few different variations, like a lot of manga, and that had a very VR look. So that inspired a few of the monsters as well. And there is this intersection historically with Japanese and Chinese folklore and monsters and demons.
Do you know
that? I have no idea what that is. That's just some fucked up alien thing, Yeah.
And what else? Trying to create a nice. Again, technically this can get a little bit hard because every time you have a light that projects a shadow, it adds extra cost. But we wanted to get this sort of thing that it would be like a really beautiful nighttime scene with all the lanterns and everything making.
Yeah, and I think it's also trying to, and this is a lot of my practice in general, is trying to reference and be true to some part of my history and identity and culture, but also, being aware not to try not to self-orientalize, to be my own Sinophile sort of thing. So to be aware of like my history and context is very different than an ancient Chinese person, so yeah. But lanterns look beautiful, so.
So you're saying that there's a warning to yourself that this is almost fetishizing a particular street scene look?
Yeah, but I mean, that is a real street.
I think.
Yeah.
Is it definitely?
I'm pretty
we
sure,
can
because
figure
you'd
out where
have
is it.
there's a lot of tourist sections in China that would look exactly like this. You know? Not just for foreign tourists, for internal and external
Like
tourists.
Zhongshan, ancient town.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we were going to have a gate that
Yeah.
they came out of. A few different bits and pieces. Age of Sail is an early Google VR Stories experience, which is pretty... Did you see Age of Sail in the end?
No.
It's on the sailing boat.
No.
It's very good. We should... It's good. It's very good. Yes. And some...
So
early
different places
processes.
like
This is our weather test.
Yeah, but we were thinking as well, depending on, because how we're going to run this perpetually is still a big question. It's a very easily answered question, but it's more about resources. But it would be great to change up the scenery every 6 months, or to make little tweaks, or to have different people, like different groups of people, maybe a school, take over the costumes and everything. It's very more easily said than done, and it's all very possible, but it's all about time and resource and in the end money. So
I mean, it's a really good, just talking about the physical presence of things done in the cloud, it's a reminder for everything. I saw that news article about the Qantas flight that doesn't go anywhere. It flies out of Sydney and flies back to Sydney. It's sold out quick. They're like, we think this is sold out quicker than anywhere else. I try not to be too upset about the idea of that.
I heard there's a cruise ship route my mate told me about, that it's called the Teardrop route, very appropriately named. It leaves from Ulladulla and it just goes around in a teardrop route, doesn't stop anywhere, and
just
goes back in Ulladulla. Yeah, I think it's a cruise ship life. It's the experience of,
And then when
they're doing a lot of cruise ship caterers are doing airplane food experiences on the ground.
I saw that. Well, that's just because they've got it and they're not using it.
I don't mind aeroplane food, so
No, I don't.
But Grim Fandango is, we would love, in an ideal world, for everyone to be able to individually sculpt intricate moving part things with a million different colors and sounds and stuff. But I think part of how we're trying to work is how we have to work is to consider the practicalities of things. And Grim Fandango's sort of engine, like character engine, I guess is very much a bit of an inspiration for.
It's a good model.
Good model to look to create different characters through these very simple blocky figurines.
And it's one thing that always happens with doing things with game engines or whatever is if you have hand drawn elements, that's where all the expressivity comes from. So like if you look at this character, I don't think it's necessarily a compromise to choose this way of doing things, although like the benefit is that everything runs really smoothly and blah blah blah. You're not throwing high detail geometry, like lots of detailed models at the computer. It just has to do simple shapes. But it's like if there was an alternative to do your kids workshops, that instead of using sort of predominantly flat cardboard surfaces, it was sculpted in high detail, it would probably be better to do it still out of the cardboard shapes, because then you could you focus your attention on the painting it. It doesn't distract too much. And Grim Fandango is excellent. All that idea of just
great game. They've just relaunched on iPad, and the makers have launched a different one on a different new game on iPad as well.
Oh yeah, what's it called?
I forgot.
Me neither. I can't. But they make good games. Should we look at just some other elements that we were going to add?
Flags
and bits
banners,
and
protest banners, how they're physically structured.
What else is down here? Nothing. That's it.
I think that's it. I mean, I think we're 5 minutes out, so
yeah, cool. If so now I don't know if my thing is updating. I can't really tell. But what I'll do is I'll go back to the screen. And
yeah, we'll just go back to streaming the video, and then if anyone has any final questions, feel free to ask. If not, we'll just sit here in silence for 5 minutes. Yeah.
Is that it? Where is it?
I don't know.
Not that. Let me
got rid of it.
Figure out how
be another
I've
screen.
done it. That one.
No, I don't know.
That one. Oh, that's very odd. Yeah, alright, well, I'll open it up again so we can see if anyone's got anything to say. How weird. Oh, there's 3 screens, right?
Yeah, as in I think it's over there.
Oh, but they're all... That would be that one. I can see them all.
Oh.
Alright. Let's go back to it. Let's see what we've got. Yeah, so, I mean, it was quite funny when we were going through it. It's like, alright, well, how are we going to make this run 24/7? Obviously, it would be easier to run it in the cloud than to run it on our computer, right? So I go on and it's like, it takes a fair amount of processing power. It needs a good graphics card, basically. So I go online and I start doing research about how much it will cost to get this virtual machine in the cloud to run our virtual experience 24/7. And it's really expensive because it needs a fair amount of processing power. And it's like, all right, okay, who knew that it was going to be that expensive? They're trying to rip us off. And then I worked out how much it would cost for running, not paying for the computer or anything, just in electricity costs. It was like $700 a year from that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was $700 a month. It
Yeah.
was a huge amount, absolutely huge amount. It just, all of that stuff about the cloud, it's like people are using cloud computing for doing artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence just is wildly bad for the environment because it just needs so much energy to do it. Anyway.
I mean, we all saw the Matrix. We're just going to start harvesting us.
Human batteries.
Yeah.
I need to find our live stream so that I can I can click on the end button when it's done.
Yeah, I think we're done. Maybe you can't shut it down.
Let's see. I mean, while I'm staring like an idiot at the screen, trying to go to it.
Oh, don't double click it.
How do we actually go to the thing? Now would be a good time. And then I worked out. Oh, there we go. That's good. All right, cool. Well, if no one's got any questions, I'll do my wrap up. Thank you, Jason. That was really good.
Thank you,
we
Josh.
haven't finished, but thanks for joining for the live stream and having a chat. This and others are shared on the Facebook group. So if you're not a member of Tactical Space Lab, then join up and see what we've done already and see what we're doing in the future. Chidamaya Demir is the next artist.